on that big motor, I forgot. Stuff out of it. I get questions a lot about the controls of the machines. How do the controls work? So I'll show you real quick in this Model 23, old school. Now, give you kind of inside the cab tour of this sweet gem. I mean, this thing's a beauty. She's old, but she's seen a lot of wood, and it can still make a darn good chip, real good chip. So the controls on this are the same as that slasher, the slasher at the shop, the old flail at the shop, the log truck. These are all the same, and there's some of the newer stuff coming out. The loader controls are quite a bit different, but this control configuration, or whatever you want to say, is most common in all the log trucks and loaders as far as forestry is concerned. And it's just really simple. I mean, you pull this back, that cylinder goes out. See the one out there? They call it your jib. No, this is your main. Anyways, the big one right here. There we go. And then you pull the other one back. That one goes out too. The jib boom. And that's your main. The jib cylinder goes out. Okay. Now, this handle here, if you pull it towards me, the bucket spins. Okay, you push it away, it spins the other way. So, real simple. And then this one, you pull it, whenever you pull any of them towards you, you want them to close. That's how they designed all of them. And then you push it away from you, it opens up. But here, and then here's your swing here. Push that pedal down, it goes that way. Push that pedal down, it goes this way. So you're constantly controlling it like that, back and forth. And but the tricky thing with this is the handles are never, they're not straight like they should come out of the seat and be straight up. This one here is pushed forward that way. So if I was to go straight over, to spin my bucket, that's pretty good. That's pretty close. The only problem is, if I do it, my cylinder goes down because it's not perfectly straight. The other problem is you got to open your bucket yet. Smack your hand against the wall a lot. And here's another thing: don't ever open the door like this. It'll take the skin right off your hand. That's a sweet design. It wasn't like that originally. That's the handle we put on it. That's the controls of this thing. And this one here, you probably can't. There you go. If you push that button, your cylinder has down pressure, and if you push the other way, it lifts it up. And it's the one right under the cab, so you lift it up when you're putting wood in. Then when your wood gets stuck or something, you push that pressure down and it forces it through, lets it bite a little more. And this one is, you have one more yoke Oh, it's not going to work because it's not revved up. On the just before the chipper disc, I have a feed wheel, and this button controls that up and down the pressure. Super simple. Once you get the hang of it, that's the controls of this thing. Like I said, that slasher's the same. Slasher at the shop, chipper at the shop, log truck. Those are all the same. The slasher's got more buttons on your joystick, but as far as your joystick is concerned, those are all the same. That new chipper's totally different. That's where someone like Mike, or somebody that's been running this style, you can get messed up real quick. So this is kind of the majority of what's run out here. But that new chipper's a different ballgame. We won't get in that. But this is your throttle for the little motor. That doesn't work. I've been working on that. I got it to where it'll rev halfway up, but it won't go all the way. I gotta tear my box apart. I think I gotta lube a few things up. She's tight in there. I think my cable going to my throttle's a little tweaked. I gotta work on that. But the electrical part does work right. I did get it to work the other day. Me and Paulie worked on it. None of my gauges work. And none of my gauges work over here. This is your little motor. Lights don't work either. This is your big motor. The throttle does work. And this stiff leg actually works. Don't you know it's working right when you hit it and your tack goes up and down. The throttle does work. The stiff legs don't work. We had a guy wire this that got everything jacked up. It was so bad. I'll give you a for instance. We got it out here in the woods. I revved the big motor up and I fall to one side. Whoa, what in the world? When I revved the motor up, it picked my one stiff leg up. So then I had to go unhook the wires off my stiff leg solenoid so I couldn't run it from up here. Because every time I revved it up, that stiff leg would come up and then I couldn't get it back down. It was a mess. And the other wiring problem I got is it just got all jacked up when it got rewired about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe 6 years ago it got rewired. 5 years ago, man, time flies. I can't keep track of time. And it got all rewired up in the cab. There's a box down here and it got new wiring from the box all the way to the cab. We really needed that. And it just didn't work out for us. He said he had everything wired the way the schematic showed, but like you can see, none of the gauges have ever worked in here. Basically, the only thing that I got out of that whole thing was a cup holder right there. That was what I got out of the whole deal. Everything else is gonna get us in trouble, and I'll explain why. You see these wires here. Now these were supposed to go up into there. Then they had a nice little nut on it that held this in there, but they're plastic. So when it gets cold in the winter and you flip this cab over, these wires get pulled a little bit. They pulled all of them loose. Well, there's 20 wires in this loom and probably 10 in this one. So you can't just redo it. Either that or the nut broke on a bunch of them. So what would happen was, I'd run this machine, and because that steel lip right here would catch my wires, and I'd be chipping it and start throwing sparks out, and then it would pop all my fuses and breakers. That's why the duct tape's wrapped all around them. The other side, this one's pulled. The other problem I have is this right here, because it used to get in the way of my foot pedals all the time. It gets up into here all the time. Drives me nuts. These wires here, this one's pulled out. That's no good. This is pulled out. Now here's the biggest problem with the wiring that we had done on this. As you can tell by the wires, you see how there's like 4 blues, 4 blacks, 3 yellows, 4 reds. There's no sorting them out. when you look at a Morbark chipper when it comes from the factory, they have their obviously blue, yellow, black, red, pink, white, whatever. But then there will be a blue wire with a yellow stripe on it, a blue wire with a pink stripe on it, a black wire with a pink stripe on it. So they stripe them so you can have a bunch more options. The problem is now is with this wiring run into here and down to the box that's down at the side of the machine, what blue is it? Because I can see, I mean, there's over 20 wires in this loom right here. And I see 3 blues. I can see 3 blacks. Or there's another blue, so that's 4 blues, 2 whites. Keeping all them straight is an absolute mess. So I was actually talking to Mike the other day about getting this thing rewired once it goes back to the shop. Because the wiring is just, for my heater, I got to connect those wires down there. That's my on-off switch. And just the wiring is just not pretty in this. I mean, I had to redo these wires last time. None of the wires are the same. I'm actually getting a hydraulic leak right here. I got to work on that. But it just needs work, you know. This thing will chip and do a good job at chipping. We did 9 loads. We'll have more wood out of this chipper this week than I can't remember the last time we put this much wood through this thing. It'll do it, but it just needs a little love. And hopefully we get it back to the shop this time. Hopefully we'll be able to set it all up and just do it right, because it'll still put out a good chip. It's still a nice machine. It is a nice machine. It looks wore out and junk, but that don't affect what you're looking for out of these machines is chips. Can you get a good chip? That's the most important part. If you can't get a good chip, $1 million chipper ain't worth 5 cents. Because if you get kicked out of the mill for bad chips, you're done for. This will put out a perfect chip. So you're already good there. So you might as well fix everything else to get it to do it. And now we're to the point now where the fixing that we've done on it in the last week, it'll put out a lot of good chips. So that's what you want. It'll produce wood at a good rate compared to what it was doing before. But that's kind of the wiring in this thing. It's pretty good stuff. Every time you get in it, after it sits for a while, squirrels will call in your heater and put a bunch of acorns in there. So you kick it on, you got to be careful because acorns will come flying out of the heater when you kick it on. It's a jewel. But actually, the one it's done this week has impressed me. Fixing what we fixed on it last week, I'm pleasantly surprised. So it's a good thing to have a good spare. It just needs some work done to it. Not a lot, but you get that wiring. I got a little hydraulic leak here and there. You get that stuff straightened out of it, and it'll be just a good chipper. It'd be nice to have your oil pressures, your water temps, your tacks working. And it's not really that hard of stuff. I mean, you're just running wires from, it's got a box down on the side of the machine and a main junction box, and then the wires go from there to wherever they need to go. It's not that hard. It just takes time to track down those wires. And you gotta undo all the fuses every time you flip the cab over in this machine, because if you don't, you got sparks flying and it pops all your fuses. When you get back in, nothing works. But it's just real simple. I mean, here's your conveyor, your feed wheels. Did I go over this the other day? No, I didn't. Your conveyor forward reverse is here. Your feed wheels forward reverse is here. This has got to turn it one way or the other. That's what lifts my conveyor up, so Paul can get underneath it right now to clean my overs out. Isn't that beautiful? And they can clean all that stuff out of there. these are my spout deflect and my spout turn. I don't even know if that works or not. I've never hit it. But there's supposed to be a horn here and another emergency stop. It is what it is. But, oh, you can plug stuff into that too if you want. That's pretty cool. It doesn't work, but you can plug stuff in there if you want. That's the inside of this cab on this old Model 23 Flail. It's an absolute jewel. Every logger's dream. I know I got people drooling wanting to come run this thing.